If there is one thing I always agreed with everyone regarding the criticism of Fear and Hunger is that the game is a bugged mess. After all, the game was made by only one person and it was one of their first experiences with RPG Maker. That's why, if you look at the code, you can find several inconsistencies or even redundant lines. Combine these elements and you are in for a lot of troubles. For example, did you know there is a door in the prisons where if you have both lockpicking and a red vial, and you use lockpicking to open it, you will lose your red vial? Or in the dream, with a precise path, you can not trigger any cutscene. And of course you can't interact with them because you were never supposed to do that. In the tower, you get the prompt to trigger the blood portal multiple times even after it's already lit. The ritual spear mentioned here, it's actually an iron spear. Corpses of enemies having different names. You know, it's not always about having some incredible game-breaking bugs. It's also just the little details, because if you combine multiple mistakes in little details, it starts being kinda heavy. Oh, and don't misunderstand me, Fear and Hunger also has some bugs which will make the game completely unplayable when they happen. Today, I want to open the Pandora's box and show you all of them, so that when the developer finally decides to fix them in 2029, we are still gonna have all of them imprinted in our heart. And also, I'm doing this to answer to one simple question. Some people tell me that the bugs are the real charm of the game. Without the bugs, the game wouldn't be as good as it is. What do you think? I am gonna give you my personal opinion at the end. Just as a little disclaimer, I may have forgotten about a couple of them, because I am human, I can make mistakes, and also trust me, some of these interactions are so crazy that I think even today there are some bugs we still don't know about. So, make yourself comfy, take some chips, and enjoy the comprehensive list of all the bugs in Fear and God damn it, I'm still sick. But before doing that, it's time to talk about today's sponsor. Have you ever wanted to take part into epic battles all over the world using countless different models of your favorite military vehicles? And all of this in a free-to-play, large-scale multiplayer game? Then look no further than War Thunder. You enjoy breaking through the front line? Pick a tank and start your battle. You prefer providing air support? Choose your favorite helicopter. Or maybe you want to send your opponent at the bottom of the sea. And in that case, ships will do the work. Each vehicle having several customization options, allowing you to conquer the battlefield with style. All of these combined with gorgeous graphics, physics, and sound effects which will make you feel the weight of every victory. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. They recently released the new Firebirds update. The game now even supports ray tracing to bring you fully realistic shadows, lightning, and reflections. And for the first time ever, the impressive F-117 stealth aircraft joins the battle. Will you be the first one to triumph with it? So, what are you waiting for? You can download the game right now for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox using the link in the description. If you are a new player, or you did not play for at least half a year, you will receive the exclusive decoration Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and even more fantastic gifts. And today, you can even fully immerse yourself in the battle in War Thunder Mobile, available on iOS and Android. You can start playing right now with the link in the description. Thank you so much to War Thunder for sponsoring this, and now let's jump into the video. In Fear and Hunger! All the bugs names you will see are arbitrarily decided by me, or it's the name they are known for in the community. Let's go! The extra turn bug. If you finish a battle in an extra turn, then any character which doesn't have an extra turn will temporarily not be allowed to use their skills. You wanted to heal or something after the battle? Nah, that's too mainstream. We have to do the whole game no damage. Permanent soul suck. The way in which soul binding works from the Mumbler is if you have more than 50 mind, you will go to exactly 50. But if it's done on Najwa or the Marriage, then it's not the mind which will go to 50. It's the max mind! You heard me right, from that moment onward, Marriage and Najwa will always have a max mind of 50 for no reason at all. Eternal Phobia bug. If a character dies while having a zero mind, then what happens is the game is gonna display over and over again that the character is at the edge of the sanity and developed a panphobia, the fear of everything. Which may seem just a slight inconvenience, but it's very annoying, because from that moment onward, reading the messages in the bottom left part of the screen will be almost impossible. Hey, did you know? You developed a panphobia, and also, hey, you developed a panphobia, and actually guys, I have something to tell you. You developed a panphobia. The worst curse ever. Scimitar and axe, like almost all the other weapons, can be cursed in the Hexen. You know what's the peculiarity? They cannot attack ghosts. They do not have the otherworldly element in their attack, effectively making cursing them more useless than it already is. The Terror Tour Odyssey. There are multiple bugs surrounding Terror Tour and even other characters, and I think compiling them into these moments is gonna be more fun. First of all, if you come from the prisons, even after you meet Bachman, you still cannot talk to Terror Tour and rat out Bachman for some ungodly reason. But let's imagine you did rat out Bachman. Now, you and Terror Tour are friends, correct? So if you sleep in the bed, even if you fail the coin flip, nothing bad should happen with him. Or he's still gonna eviscerate you because the game is bugged, and there is a bug in the bug. He gets stuck in the animation. He doesn't move. He just stays there staring at us. But let's imagine Terror Tour did not already bug you. You go to the ancient city and save Jeanne. You bring Jeanne to Terror Tour and now you know about the secret chamber. You need to light up all the torches and have a key he gives you. But even here we have a problem. In a specific layout, he blocks the road to the torch. And on the other side, Jeanne blocks the road to the torch. You cannot physically access that room in this situation. Every single part of this character is completely bugged, and we have the cherry on top. After ratting out Bachman, you get some rewards, but if you are in a specific layout of the dungeon, if you enter into the Hexen room, you will receive the rewards once again. And if you're wondering why, it's because the Hexen room and another layout of the torture chamber are connected, so basically there is a second torture which, out of bounds, gives you the rewards. Pretty simple, right? Kahara attachment issues. Kahara, if you have Darcy in your party, will never leave your party for low mind. The reason is, Darcy being in your party prevents the game from reaching the part of the code where Kahara would effectively leave the party. This means, even if Kahara literally says he wants to stay back for a while, he will never be able to leave. We may say Kahara has a very toxic relationship with the dungeon in this moment. BLACK. In several occasions, your screen can just become black for no reason, and you are stuck in there temporarily. The first example is, if you are Ragnvalder and choke Legard, then recruit Darcy and go interact with Legard, the screen will just become black. And okay, that's very specific, probably no one will ever see this. Let's go to miasma battles! The battles where your characters should go crazy in certain parts of the map because they have the miasma equipped won't happen, and the screen will turn black. Yeah. You wanted to have an epic battle with your party member with the miasma? No. Black screen. And there is even another black screen bug, but we will see it later. Game doesn't know where you are. Imagine, every time you are in a certain zone, there is a person in the corner of the room which repeatedly screams that you are in the Tomb of the Gods, for example. Once you leave the zone, that person should stop screaming and another person should start screaming you are in the other zone. But sometimes they don't stop screaming. And if multiple people scream different names at the same time, then stuff like the talk interactions will be partially bugged. For example, in here, in the Tomb of the Gods with Olmir, we have the same dialogue as the room above. While instead, without the bug, Enki should say how he's able to perceive the presence of Olmir. No phobia for the undead. There are several death cutscenes which do not actually kill you. You are still allowed to go around the dungeon if you want. For example, the Body Snatcher. You know what's the real problem? Since before triggering the death animation they kill you, you lose all the states you have. Bleeding, poison, and your phobia. Therefore, if you die and have this death cutscene and you keep playing, you will never have your phobia ever again. I can already imagine the copers in the comments being like, you actually had a near-death experience, therefore now you are not scared of anything. Let's continue. Baby demon, giga problems. The demon baby is a mistake. all the different demon babies are connected. Which means, if a demon baby dies, then from that moment onward, every time you give birth to another demon baby, they will already be dead. And also there is some weird problems with the sprite, I guess, because I don't need to comment these, I think. Coin flip bugs. There are two main coin flip bugs I want to talk about right now. The first one is Francois. In particular, in his battle, he will only do the coin flip attack a single time for the whole battle, despite the text implying he's gonna do it more times. And then, and here there is the more problematic one, the Harvestman. The Harvestman in the Temple District cannot be guarded. If they do the coin flip, you better hit it correctly, otherwise you just die. The Eastern Perfume, but oh boy, I mean, if you followed my channel for a while, you already know I despise this accessory, because it could be so decent. But let's go with order. Do you know the Eastern Perfume, the accessory which gives the character it is equipped to a special taunt? It doesn't. It just doesn't work. Yeah, I really hope that perfume is worth it, because it does literally nothing, it's a waste of an accessory slot, and without the bug, it could actually be used in some niche strategies. But it is what it is. Enki the Bugs Eater. Enki, like Tortor, has some bugs related to him, and we're gonna discuss them right now. First of all, the Cockroach King will not count the completion of the quest if you kill Enki in the first floor. You specifically have to kill Enki in level 7. But I know you don't care about the Cockroach King. After all, I think majority of players doesn't even know it exists. And let's be honest, majority of players who talks about Fear and Hunger does not actually play the game. I know that you are here for the next bug. Ragnavaldr trying to marry Enki on a ritual circle will cause your character to become invisible, and you will not turn into a marriage. And I will take advantage of this moment to talk about Mary Enki and Ragnaflower. Two Terror and Starvation variations of these characters if you don't recruit them before reaching Mahabre, and their battle is not present. If you start a fight with them, you instantly win, and they die. Yeah. We then have a series of bugs related to enemies not too big to deserve a separate category. So let's try to get this over with. If you give a yellow vial to the Flying Blight, it tells he leaves you alone, but he actually dies. This teaches you should never drink the yellow liquid given to you by the guy in the dark alley. If you approach the Old Knight from above, the battle which will come is missing a particular event. An event which at the end of the battle resets some variables, long story short. One of the variables? Removing the Blood Golem. This means, if you summon the Blood Golem in the battle, it's gonna still be in your party at the end of it. Do you remember the ghosts in the infested mines? If you kill them and then you make everything collapse, they will respawn, but I guess at that point you don't really need to pass in there anymore, so whatever. Once you're in the void, your party members are still with you until you finish the dialogue. What does this mean? If the dinosaur approaches you in this moment, you can immediately fight him with all the party members still present in your party. Oh, and since we are here with the dinosaur itself, if you happen to kill him during the transition between the last phase in which he is not close to you and the phase in which he is close to you, his torso will disappear forever. And the only way to win the battle is to kill the head. Congratulations, you just made the fight 100% harder, let's go! The next one is hilarious. If Cyril is not hostile towards you and you start the battle, and you talk them out of the battle, and you make them go back to Bachman, you then are still able to walk down there and trigger another battle with another Sir Cyril, which can be killed and will give you the armor, which means you can both get the reward from the Bachman mission and the Gaunt armor in the same run. Do you remember the skeleton which Enki summons during the battle? That skeleton is... a living nightmare. If Darcy's in the party as you choke Legard, as you know, a battle will start. But if you talk her out of the battle, she will be petrified. Forever. And that's the end of her story. The next one is one of those miracles of programming I never really truly understood. If you use an explosive vial on the Mumbler, they don't die! For some reason, the head still explodes, but I guess the game is not processing that they should have died in the... I don't know, they just keep going. You have to kill them on the torso. The next one, if I recall correctly, is also used in some speedruns any percent of ending A. If you deal at least 4000 damage on the God of Fear and Hunger during phase 2, you win the battle! Yeah, the developer forgot to put an immortality on this phase, probably. Let's go to Isaiah. Isaiah is peculiar. If he draws the sword in battle and then you escape, he will never draw the sword ever again in the battle. But check this out, you should not be able to escape at all. In the Temple District, after you collect the treasure, he will attack you. And if you escape, you know what happens? He will repeat over and over again the same dialogue, constantly starting a battle with you until you kill him. Always moving a little bit more to the outside of the screen, though. And last but not least, bird traps and marksmanship do not work on the elite guard in the prisons. What did you say? You wanted to do strategical thinking against the opponent? Nah. Alright, one of the biggest sections is over. And in case you didn't, remember to leave a like and subscribe, and I stream video games weekly here on YouTube if you're interested. Enregengard. Is that even a good way to say it? Maybe I should have said Enregard, or... Ah, screw the title! Engard is not only a very good skill, but has a very secret and special property. Do you know all those things which give you regeneration in battle? Such as the Ring of Greats, for example? If you equip it, and you start Engarding while moving around, you will trigger the effect outside of the battle. But be careful, because with great power there is great stupidity. Stupidity of the developer, of course. In fact, if you have bleeding or poison, you will actually take damage while Engarding. Cave Dwell legs are built different. Yeah, the titles are gonna become more and more stupid every time. Legs whip on the Cave Dwellers is very inconsistent. For example, on the yellow hat, it cuts only one leg. On some Dwellers, it also cuts the PP. And by this point, maybe you don't think it's weird, maybe you just think it depends from the enemy, right? Okay, let's go to the Spear Cave Dweller. Okay, tell me it's intended now, idiot. Merigard. I swear to God, the first time I discovered this bug. Basically, do you know Engard? Okay, do you know the Marriage? The Marriage cannot Engard unless you equip a cursed shortbow. And also, when you equip the cursed shortbow, you have to be careful, because it's also gonna mix the animation of shooting arrows with the Engard itself, so you have to be even more careful about if you have arrows or not. I swear to God, it's just one single switch to change. Why the developer doesn't fix it? Old Knight Escape Flop. You normally can run away from the Old Knight. Do you know Escape Plan, the skill which is notorious for increasing the chance to escape from the enemies? Of course, if you have it on your character, you can... not... run away from the Old Knight anymore. Just, some of these bugs may not even be realized by a normal player which is playing the game. Someone may just assume you cannot escape from the Old Knight. Someone may just end up not realizing how badly this game is programmed, but I am here! I am here to tell you the truth, at the cost of my mental sanity! Then, as we did for Enki, let's go to a series of bugs related to our Chad of the group, Najra. Let's start strong. Even if you don't have Najra in your group, if you reach Grogroth, Najra will start speaking. No worries, he's probably there somewhere, you just cannot see it. Yeah, the whole cutscene plays out as if Najra was in your party. He explodes and then you start the battle. Why, there is an ambulance! I swear, every time I record. But anyways, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's go into the Uncanny Valley. Are you ready to see the next bug? Well, for that, we need to be blind. If while blind you escape from the Najra battle, you will temporarily regain your eye. I'm sorry, you will temporarily regain your eyesight. I guess Najra was able to make a miracle. Then there are a lot of events which can immediately remove it again, but for now you can explore the dungeon, potentially even reach, I don't know, Isaiah to get the mask to heal your blindness, or reach the Moon Lady. You are safe! Then there is a very minor one. When you talk to the statue, Najra should say he likes his traits, but the name is swapped with Isaiah for some reason. And now let's go to the bug that I think really ruined some playthroughs if you save afterwards, ever. Make love. If you make love with Isaiah in the Tower of the Endless, you will not burn. But from that moment onward, whenever you enter a zone where there is another ritual circle which is not the one of the Tower of the Endless, you instantly burn to your death. Mwah. Just imagine, you try to make love, nothing happens, you save the game, and from that moment, congratulations, your save is almost unusable. And later, we are gonna go into other soft locks and hard locks, and you will realize this game is broken to the bone! God damn it! Let's continue. Marriage for Gore. Both the Marriage and the Abominable Marriage cannot learn skill from the Book of the Forgotten Memories. You know why? Because the one who is learning the skill is the OG, the one you started the run with. Then we have another little section with some minor bugs. Are you ready? To get a brown vial from the empty scroll, you have to not write in caps. If you step on fire in the Golden Temple, you have just enough time to exit the temple and to go around the whole dungeon while still burning. You cannot open your menu, you keep running on place, and most importantly, if you re-enter in the temple, you just die. The Cave Moss has a middle stage you will never see because it's gonna be already fully grown when you go back. There is a Fall in the Thicket where if you hit correctly the coin flip, you should go down and get a soulstone, but the game does not work, of course, and sometimes you don't go down. And last but not least, if you have multiple outfits which change the appearance in the overworld of your main character, they may mix up if you change between them in the equipment menu. As you can see, the priest is welcoming me as his brother while I'm currently dressed as a guard. Crow Bee Mauler. The B stands for bugs, if it wasn't clear. Crow Mauler 2 has a lot of bugs. First of all, there is one layout of the prisons where you will not trigger the Crow Mauler if you go down the staircase, while normally you should. This means, as long as you don't enter into the thicket or the mines, the Crow Mauler will never start spawning. Also, after the Crow Mauler was already despawned from the dungeon, you can still hear him screaming, but he will not appear because he was already supposed to be despawned. Also, if you kill him, you can loot the Crow Emblem key, but after you leave the zone, he will be teleported into the basement where you can loot a second Crow Emblem key. Pure magic. But the best one comes right now. I just talked about how he despawns. That happens when you surpass this arc in Mahabre, but there is a way to prevent the despawn. Are you ready to see how difficult and complex it is to prevent the despawn of the Crow Mauler? Yeah, in the past, if you go on the right, the Crow Mauler will not despawn. So you can explore fully Mahabre, take all the loot, and then get your revenge. And this strategy for most players almost became a fundamental part of the meta of defeating the Crow Mauler, especially in hard mode. Because in hard mode you cannot even rest at the bed in the basement to fight the Crow Mauler. And that's not the only bug which cemented itself as a meta strategy. In fact, leg sweep doors. All the doors you can fight against, the staircase to Legard, the door to the Bone Shears, the ones in the prisons, every single one that you can fight against can be instantly killed if you use leg sweep. Guys, I love Fear and Hunger, it's one of my favorite games, not my favorite because that's still Final Fantasy X, but knowing that my favorite game is this broken, and talking about broken, Hexen speedrun. At any point of the game, if you go into the Hexen and you get a skill, and you quickly exit, because after all time is important, hunger and sanity go down, you may accidentally soft-lock yourself out of that skill. Yeah, you heard me correctly. The skill is not gonna be present in your skill menu, but the ball in the Hexen will still prevent you to re-getting it. And this can happen at any point in any run in your game in the current version. Marksmanship Jack Griffin. No worries, there is no character in the game called Jack Griffin. What happens with this bug is, you know, sometimes some enemies don't spawn in your layout, because the game, to create variety, has different spawn points for them? Well, it turns out, if you marksmanship in that specific place where they should have spawned, you will kill them. And they will spawn. Imagine you're randomly going around and maybe you accidentally shoot an arrow and you get a corpse in front of you. At least it's a positive bug, okay? At least it helps you. Let's be positive, okay? Now let's talk about skills bugged. You can get 2 different versions of steel in your run. They do the exact same thing, exact same animation, exactly the same. They are just referred to as 2 different skills. If you use counter magic on the yellow mage, instead of disrupting the spell, how the text implies, he is actually gonna use hurting immediately on you, making counter magic even more useless than it already was. If you use Guard on Sylvian, the tumor will never spawn. You can stay in the battle for 1,000,000 turns, the tumor will not spawn. Some body snatchers have the loot you can steal connected. This means, if you steal from one of them, the other one will have nothing. And a similar thing happens with the yellow mage. If you talk, you get a talisman. If you then steal, you get a second talisman. But vice versa, if you first steal and then talk, you only get a single talisman. Joy of joys. It's already useless regardless, you will never do this. But I think it's time to change the tone a little, because we go from simple bugs like, you know, double steal, wow, that's incredible. No, guys. Now we go to some soft locks and hard locks. The bane of any person who did not save for the past 1 hour or that is playing in hard mode. And if the first one I present you is very convoluted, in fact you have to fall into the prison cell, don't open the door, sleep and kill an enemy in front of the door, therefore you cannot interact with the door anymore and you cannot open it, even if it is kinda convoluted and requires some very specific setups to happen, and trust me, it happened to multiple people I know, trust me, getting soft locked or hard locked is very simple. Want an example? Okay, do you remember Nosramus in the mines? Well, if you stay in the bottom row in a specific layout, and you approach him, you show yourself from the dark, it's over. Your adventure is over. Because there is a wall in front of you, the character is trying to move forward, but since you cannot, the event does not proceed with the rest of the dialogue. And you are gonna stay in there until the end. Remember, no specific setup, nothing, just showing yourself to Nosramus. Something which may happen even in the very first run you do. Honestly, if this bug happened to me on the very first run I did, I think I would have never started making videos on this game. Ever. And the best part is, that's not even the only one. For example, you reach the old passage, ready to take on the old guardian, but first you want to loot some crates, you should never, ever take a stone from this pile. If you do take a stone, GG. The road is blocked forever. You cannot go down anymore. But wait, my favorite hardlock is arriving right now. If you are the Marriage or the Abominable Marriage, and the Night Lurch jumps at you, this will happen. Mwah! This reminds me a lot of the old bugs on PS1 or PS2 where the game just froze and you had a constant sound repeating. I love it so much! Screw the rules, I have money. This is a series of events which bring you to have infinite items of some sort. First of all, the Moonless Guard in the Cave Dweller village which appears during the massacre has a special property. If you have a skinning knife and you loot, you can loot over and over again infinite meat cleavers. But who cares about infinite meat cleavers? They're not that useful, right? Okay, let's go to the thicket. If you never collect the coin on the table in the Cave Dweller village, in the thicket you can find a peculiar lucky coin which will never disappear. And that's not over! The thicket has another problem of this type. There is one precise chest, which thank God does not spawn every single time, but if you interact with it from the top right side, you open it, you collect an item, and then you can keep opening it over and over again, potentially gaining almost every single item obtainable in the dungeon. And if you're a real tryharder and are gonna spend hours on this, it even includes empty scrolls. The last I'm gonna mention, it's not that useful, but it's my favorite one, personally. Do you see this library in the past? If you loot it from the right side, you can loot it multiple times, and you can get all the flavor books. Yeah, unfortunately, it only gives non-important books, but I guess in here you can learn lore, you can get stuff like anatomia maybe, so you can craft the cloth fragments. It's not that useful, but I love there is a way to get infinite lore books. Inflation. Some vendors of the dungeon, well, almost all of them, have a problem. They lie. For example, here you can buy Alchemilla for 70 silver coins, but when you buy it, it actually costs 80, and will remove 80 coins from your inventory. You cannot even buy it if you don't have 80 coins in your inventory. And that's not the only case. After the first dialogue with the bug-eyed figurine, if you want to buy a Purifying Talisman, it says 5 silver coins, but it's actually 10! Double the price! I have never seen a bigger scam in my life. But at least, other than this, there is also a hero in the dungeon, and the hero wears a yellow hat. Explosive Vial costs 15 silver coins, but that's false. If you have less than 15 silver coins, it will just take all the money you have and will give you an Explosive Vial, but not less than 5 coins. This basically means if you have between 5 and 14 silver coins, it's guaranteed value for an Explosive Vial. And now we have another little section with small bugs. In the blue scene, the Hexen is represented... In the blue scene, the Hexen is represented... What am I saying? In the Hexen, the blue scene is represented by an axe, which is wrong, of course. Are you tired of having to go to a time machine to go from the present to the past in Mahabre? Well, in the Temple District, there is the solution for you. If you are in this precise point of the Grand Library, and you go on right... Poof. The next one hurts a lot, in particular if it happened to you. On the weapon table in the basement, if you hit correctly the coin, you have a chance to get... nothing. Yeah, there is a chance that after hitting correctly the coin, you just stare at the screen in disbelief. But be happy, because in the dream section of Oldegard, if you go all the way to the left, and it is very easy to do that, you are literally capable of going out of bounds and reaching the part of the map where all the events and sprites used in that zone are used. For example, even if it's a little bit difficult, you can see on the ground the blood used when you are bleeding. It's not really useful for anything, but in my opinion it's very funny being able to reach a part of the map you were never supposed to see. And at last, remember that hunger can make you crawl if it's high enough? Well, if after you are starting crawling, you immediately lose both the legs normally, if you immediately eat something to restore your hunger, then in the next hunger check, you will restore one of your legs. Yeah, in here the developer wanted to encourage you to always eat your cabbages in real life, because they are very healthy for you. Oh boy, it's time to talk about the bow. Let's start very soft. If you shoot an arrow without marksmanship to the Gaunt Knight, his arms will not be destroyed. What you are destroying is the arm inside of battle after you already kill one of the swords. Yeah, because basically the gimmick of the Gaunt Knight is that he has the arm with the sword and the arm without the sword, and by dealing a certain damage you remove the sword, and then you have to deal more damage to remove the arm. With the bow you kill the arm without sword, long story short. The next one is something I expect everyone to already know, despite having never tried it. The bow surpasses walls. Yeah, as you may realize, there is not a collision system with walls with the bow. The last is something you may actually be familiar with. We have to talk about the arrow of the Ballista Guard. If the arrow doesn't hit you, it's gonna be stuck in the void near the staircase. If the arrow hits you, it's slightly different. Leave the zone and come back, and there is gonna be an arrow stuck on the ground in the exact place where you got damaged. And if you touch it, you're gonna get damaged another time completely free. Torch skip. Maybe the most notorious bug of them all, at least inside of the community. The one which is the most easy to be triggered, potentially. The one which has the most potential to break the game. Other than another one we're gonna see very soon, of course. Do you know those moments where your character stops moving because an event starts happening, such as Jeanne being carried by the Lord of Flies? Those events are triggered by specific points in the ground. And here it's where we go into the dark side. If you move and light up a torch at the same time, the game does not process you are actually on the tile where an event should be triggered. Therefore, you are gonna be able to skip that event completely. Do you want some applications? I mean, there is the event where you can skip Terror Tour, so Bachman is gonna be stuck in the corridor, or... yeah! There is also the possibility to skip Sylvian fight in the void! Sylvian, the second hardest boss fight of the game, can be completely skipped with a torch, available from the start! To be fair, in a normal situation, I don't think you're ever gonna actually want to do that, because if you're playing on Terror and Starvation or Hard mode, I think you want to fight Sylvia, otherwise you would just play in Fear and Hunger difficulty. But with a positive bug like this, there is also a very negative bug very soon. Oh Lord doesn't give Salmon Snake. With an empty scroll, you can obtain every single special soul in the game, Crow Mauler, Cave Mother, but not Salmon Snake. Because in the English translation, Salmon Snake is used in the empty scroll both for the Salmon Snake soul and the Salmon Snake meat. But since the Salmon Snake meat has priority, if you write "Oh Lord, give Salmon Snake," you will always get Salmon Snake meat. Imagine a player which realizes how to use empty scrolls and realizes you can get boss souls with them and tries "Oh Lord, give Salmon Snake" and just gets Salmon Snake meat. Darcy is bipolar. Yeah, this is not a joke name, it's real. If you don't interrupt Legard and Ragnvaldr fighting, so Legard dies and Darcy starts a battle with you, you can still talk to her to stop the battle right there. What's the result? That she starts once again screaming for Legard and starts once again accusing you of being the culprit. Please guys, can we make this canon maybe? In fact, sorry, I meant the infection bug. You can still get infected on a limb, even without having any of that limb. Yeah, you cannot even use the bone sew in the worst case to just sew it off because it's not present. You better have a green herb or the Salmon Snake soul, or it's GG. Gotta go fast. This is kinda convoluted, so take what I say at face value, okay? During some events, your PG is programmed to stay completely still, not even being able to use Enguard. The problem is, after some of these events, the game forgets to re-give you the possibility to use Enguard. The result is, until you get another event which fixes the problem, you cannot Enguard anymore but move slightly faster. I'm gonna mention just a couple of these events, not all of them, because I think not even I know all of them. For example, in the Temple of Torment, if you refuse to sacrifice someone on the chains, an action which is barely done by people, so it's pretty understandable the developer forgore. But then there is stuff like, the first time you reach the Void, it's automatically like that. Then if you collect the treasure in the Temple District while Isaiah is already dead, and then we go into more convoluted stuff, such as giving the girl to pocket cut for a claymore while you have the Ancient Book, but not the Book of the Forgotten Memories in your inventory. There are probably dozens more interactions like this in the game, but I think it's gonna be boring and useless to search them all. The next section is the longest one, and it's called Visual Extravaganza, and comprehends the majority of the visual bugs present in the game. So, take a deep breath with me, and get ready. A barrel and a crate in the basement disappear after you loot them. Pac-Man may become invisible if you kill Trortur before finding him. Rotten meat has the same sprite of the dried meat. In a specific layout of the caves, Nosramus' basket will stay on the floor without Nosramus. There is an invisible wall in the Cave Dweller village which does not allow you to pass. In some situations, and no, I still don't fully comprehend this, a ghoul may visually turn into a skeleton. If you enter Mahaber, Pac-Man will die, but there is only the upper part of the body on the table. In Terror and Starvation, the Skin Granny has 4 arms, but the 4th one is not visible even if it can still be targeted. After you kill a skeleton, they are invisible on the ground. Fun fact, if you kill them with marksmanship, the sprite will be instead visible. In the Temple District, the vases have been incorrectly positioned. You can in fact interact with the wall to get one of the vases. When the caves collapse and you are stuck in the rocks, there is no sprite for the Marriage and the Abominable. If you light up the left torch from above, it lights up the right one. If you get caged by the Lord of Flies with the Penance Armor on, the sprite in the cage does not have the Penance Armor for some reason. Using the passages of Mahabre in the dream will carry on the rain and the music. Even after you kill the embryo, the game keeps showing messages of the embryo growing. Using marksmanship on the Harvestman will say that you killed Terror 4. And if you shoot a barrel in the basement, you're gonna hit the Crow Mauler for some reason. If you use steal on the dogs, it says there is nothing to steal from Moonless. Enki in the Void is called Mercenary. The Mercenary in the Void talks to Darcy, but Darcy is called Mercenary. The Penance Knight's book text has a frame and it's at the bottom of the screen, while usually all the books are in the middle with no frame. I am sorry if I went very fast in there, but these bugs are the most boring ones in the game, honestly. And regardless, you can put the video in 0.5 to listen to it better. Old Guardian, end of the turn. This is very situational, but very useful. Without going too much into the specifics, because it's pointless honestly, some attacks of the enemies happen at the end of the turn specifically. For example, the Eyes of Grogoroth attack at the end of the turn. The Old Guardian Soul, if you have 0 HP at the end of the turn, gets removed. But with these attacks there is a special interaction where it's not removed. In other words, at the end of the turn you can take all the damage you want, you will never die, and your Guardian Soul will not be removed. I mean, it's a form of immortality. Very specific, but it's a form of immortality. Do you want another one? Okay, Critical State Immortality! If you have Critical State on you and 1 HP, and trust me, this is easier than it seems, you can for example use the Old Guardian Soul, which puts your HP at 1 at the end of the turn, you are immortal to damage. Yeah, you heard me right, because Critical State is supposed to bring your HP to 1 and then get removed, but since it cannot bring your HP to 1 because it's already at 1, it will never get removed and you will always take 0 damage. Connection between sessions. Again, take what I say at face value. If you never close the game but you load multiple times different saves, you may notice some similarities. There are some things which will transition from one save to the other. One example, lighting up a blood portal will leave on other runs the light of the blood portal even if it's not already lit. Do you want another? The light of the torch. Notice the current light I have on my torch, okay? Now we reload another game, and look, it's the same exact light. A coin to sleep. After you clear all the enemies in an area, you should be able to sleep without a coin flip in any bed in that zone. But if you happen to try to sleep before having cleared all the enemy in a zone, then from that moment onward you will always have a coin flip when you sleep, when normally you shouldn't have any coin flips if all the enemies are dead. And this can be quite frustrating, especially because it's something probably everyone which plays the game experiences and doesn't even know it's a bug. They may just think it's a feature that the game decides to, oh, you know, you're sleeping, coin flip! Now, I am sorry, but I need to satisfy the fanfiction writers I have in the audience, therefore we're gonna talk about bugs in Dungeon Knights. There are quite a few, honestly, and if you watched my video on Dungeon Knights, you already know all of them. But long story short, if you go to a date with Legard in the tomb or in the caverns, it will also give some hearts to the Crow Mauler, and this, currently, it's the only way to reach enough hearts with the Crow Mauler for the prom. Also, be careful because you may get a black screen on the minigame in the caverns if you do it multiple times with the Crow Mauler and Legard. Then in Nashra route, you have not enough hearts. You just cannot romance Nashra, unfortunately. And if you try to talk to Nashra on day 5 about going to the prom, you will automatically go to the prom with Chambara, even without having ever talked to Chambara ever. And like for Nashra, you don't have enough hearts to romance Enki at all. Yeah, that's pretty sad, but then we have my favorite bug of Dungeon Knights. If in Dungeon Knights you get a death cutscene, such as for example against the Lord of Flies, you will be teleported to the real dungeon of fear and hunger! The difficulty is hard mode, you can get all the skills from the Hexen, Enki cannot do his S ending, but everything else works perfectly. Skip intro is terrible! Remember, skip intro, the thing you should never do because it doesn't give you dash? It's even worse than you may think, because if you are Darcy or Enki, if you skip the intro, you get certain skills. Darcy gets fast attack and defense stance, Enki gets necromancy, needleworm. You know what's the problem? That in the Hexen, Darcy does not have the balls lit up for fast attack and defense stance, so you need to waste 2 more lesser souls for no reason. And Enki does not have the one for needleworm. Okay, to be fair, needleworm is terrible, so that's okay. And we have arrived to the next and penultimate main section of bugs, which talks about connected or wrong enemies, parts, limbs. What do I mean with connected? Well, for example, in the basement there are 2 crates which are connected. If you loot the first one, the second one is gonna be empty. Which is not too terrible, okay, you lose an item, but that's fine, right? Let's go to the other ones. First of all, the lizardmen in the passage behind the Salmon Snake pool are connected. If you kill the legs of the second lizardman, the first lizardman in the overworld will start crawling. Even if in battle there is nothing different, in the overworld he's gonna crawl. But still, come on, that's 2 very specific enemies in a very specific zone of the game, that's fine, right? But then of course, It gets worse! Of course it gets worse. If you sew off the pose from Moonless, for the first 3 pose, it's fine. But, and here you are gonna witness to some 500 head level of programming, if you keep sewing off, you will sew off the girl legs. Because, of course you would, I mean, otherwise it would be ridiculous. Imagine you sew off the pose from Moonless, and then you go and recruit the girl, and then she's already crawling, and you're like, what? What happened? Then there is some other mediocre stuff, to be honest. For example, if you kill the Moonless guard present in Mahabre, then there is gonna be a Moonless guard which spawns in the Cave Dweller village, because it's the same Moonless guard of the massacre. And then we go to the one I hate the most. Not only for the bug itself, but also because some people confused me on this. Let me explain. If you kill the arms of the Nameless Guardian, and then you go and fight the Old Guardian, he will not have the arms, because they are connected. This is honestly hilarious, and I love it. You know what surprised me? A lot of people don't agree that it's a bug. A lot of people think that the Nameless figurine and the Old Guardian are the same entity. But did you play Fear and Hunger? Did you not see the Old Guardian and the Nameless? And oh boy, our Nameless figurine cannot catch a break. In fact, we have to go back to marksmanship. Marksmanship kills enemies. The uterus dies. The uterus dies. The uterus I mean, I think you already know where I'm going with this. If you use marksmanship on this uterus, who dies? And then the last the wrong limb part is a very simple one. The Lord of Flies will crawl only after you kill a very specific leg and a very specific arm. That's not so important, but god damn it. How did you combine the Nameless figurine with the uterus? Come on, we have to hold on. There are still only a couple more bugs and then it's over. And we will never have to talk about them ever again. Harvestman hitbox. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you can just look at the clip and you realize... the Harvestman hitbox doesn't really work as intended. He's gonna be able to ghost snipe you from the other side of the map and start a battle. Steal the intro. It's very literal. There are some characters which can steal the intro from other characters. An example, Ragnavaldr can start with the intro of Kahara. What you have to do is select Ragnavaldr as a character, and then while the screen is fading out, move the cursor to Kahara and click. And boom, you were born with the Soul of the Endless. Now, that's not true, you will still have the Tormented Soul in the Hexen, and also you cannot gain Kahara skills in this intro, but you can get the money. And also you are still able to get the dash, because the game works in a weird way, don't let me explain, okay? So, yeah, I guess if you want to start with the 60 coins with the Ragnavaldr, that's a possibility. Never leave the girl. In some layouts, even if you already have 4 party members, you can still recruit the girl if you interact with the cage from the left side. And that's not even the only case. For example, the same happens if you rescue her from the Harvestman. Now we have 2 bugs related to max HP, in particular to some mistakes with the max HP. Blood Sacrifice and Fracture both influence the max amount of HP you have on your character. But because of how stuff like Hunger works, they... don't work. Blood Sacrifice does not reduce your max HP by 30 because after a while they go back to 100. And Fracture, which should reduce your max HP by 20%, after a while only removes 4 max HP total. But no worries, the skeletons are still gonna stay at 80 HP. Black Witch... flip. So, you should be able to get the Black Witch soul if you kill the Black Witch in the flipside basement. The problem is... the event teleports you away before you get it, therefore you will never access it. And this may even cause some little softlocks in stuff like Ragnavaldr's ending, because if you don't find an empty scroll, it's GG. But in any case, welcome to the last main section of bugs of this video. After this, we are still gonna have a couple of individual bugs, but it's mostly over. Enemy attack. attacks. I mean, could attacks not be bugged in some way, shape or form? For example, you may be familiar with cannot read the property scope of null, which happens with enemies such as the elite guard. Then be careful about how you escape from this yellow mage, because if at this intersection you go immediately down, he will still keep casting hurting on you, and you will die. Valtail Whispers of Garogoroth cannot be stopped with a Purifying Talisman despite the state disappearing. Then there is my personal favorite of this little section. If you search the Night Lurch without having a skinning knife, he will be able to jump at you while being dead. Night Lurch is the most anime character I have ever seen. Then, do you remember the debuff applied from Darcy with Shield Bash? Well, not only does nothing, because what it does is increasing the chance for the enemies to debuff your defense, but there is not a single enemy in the game which does that, but also it stays after the battle for some non-apparent reason. And also, even if it did do something, defense is not a parameter used for the calculation of the damage you take from enemy attacks. Then we have the goal's tackle. Let me explain. If a single goal gets the tackle going on, every other goal in the dungeon will become able to use tackle if they can already do that. So you end up with enemies being able to tackle despite still having the arms alive. I swear to God there is another ambulance. What the fuck is going on today? And since we mentioned the defense debuff applied from Darcy, do you know all those attacks of the enemies which increase their stats? For example, Moonless Howl? Well, that does nothing. I mean, it does increase the attack, but the attack is not a parameter used for the damage Moonless does. I really don't understand if they are just in the game as a sort of threat, like to scare you or something without having any usage. What the hell? And then, last but not least, Face Rape of the Skin Granny, an insta-kill, mind you, does not work on several characters. And okay, I have no problems in understanding, okay, maybe Face Rape does not work on the skeleton, but the girl? I like to think that the developer just forgot about them. Good, the last section is over, we just have a couple more bugs, and then this whole ordeal in the bug universe is gonna be over forever. False Cube. If you empty scroll the Cube of Depths, you will not get the Cube of Depths, you will get a special version of the cube, which is probably a discarded idea, which allows you to teleport from the present and the past wherever you are. The problem is that, of course, being discarded, it doesn't really work how you would expect. No one is here. In some very specific situation, if you rescue Bachman, he will not go down to Sir Seymour. And this implies something very funny. If you rescue Jeanne, she will go to the basement and says there is nobody there, but bro, there is Seymour right there. No more rotten food. In Terror and Starvation, before going to get actual food from barrels, there is an extra list where you can get only rotten food, and in this list you will never get rotten meat because it's bugged. But you can still get a rotten meat from the normal selection pool. Move the stupid mouse. You can select enemy body parts with the mouse. Even though that was not supposed to be the case, the game even contains a plugin to remove that option. But what happens is, sometimes, even if the mouse is completely off screen, you can just not select other body parts of the opponent, and you may just stare at the screen wondering why. And I saw multiple people asking this question. In case this happens, be sure to move your cursor on the enemy, and then move it all the way to the right side or the left side. If it doesn't work, repeat. Phase. I will not spend so much time talking about this because I already spent too many words in the skill tier list video. Phase is a mistake, the player is not supposed to get this skill, giving a player a no-clip function is terrible, it creates more bugs than ever, but you just have to know how to use it, shut up! You have no idea how many fake bug reports I got because people started using Phase and said, hey, why does this thing not work? Do you want to know the most famous one? You can get the blue scene if you take it and then use the Phase to escape from the door. But I don't know why, when I go back, everything collapses. Maybe because you're not supposed to do that! Debug spots. Okay, they are technically not a bug, they are a debug, but if I don't include them, people are gonna say, hey, you didn't talk about debug spots, so let's go. There are multiple places around the dungeon where, if you click on them, you will get extra party members or extra items. The most notable ones are In the entrance in here, you will get Darcy and Ragnavaldr. In the Temple of Torment in here, you get Penance Armor, some party members. The game thinks your main character is a marriage, so be very careful with this one. Then there is one in here to get explosive vials. And then there are multiples of them out of bounds we will not talk about because they are out of bounds, and without phase they are not reachable. Infinite red vials. Well, technically not infinite, but you will see what I mean in a second. So, you know, every time you use a red vial to open a door or something else, it gets consumed, right? Did you ever try to see what happens if you use a red vial in battle? Because I only recently realized this, but if you use a red vial in a battle, it's never consumed. You can literally abuse it to blind multiple body parts of the opponent. Useless, like it's very situational, almost never gonna be useful, but you can still do that. I find it incredible how even after 2000 hours on the game there are still secrets I don't even know about and I discover only recently. But if there is a secret, there is the library looping. Something which happened to you, surely, and you don't know that it's a bug. Do you know when you get multiple empty scrolls or multiple scrolls from a library bookshelf? That's because of some books you have in your inventory which cause the event to loop on itself without interrupting the previous instances. These are all the books which, if in the inventory, give you more chances of triggering the loop. Skeleton arms. Skeleton arms. Skeleton arms have some problems. So, basically, you know without arms you cannot equip weapons or something? For skeletons it's slightly different. Without arms you can still equip something, and then, once in battle, someone or anyone triggers an event where the game checks your characters, that's when their equipment falls. So you can basically equip them before the battle, and then as long as the enemy does not trigger any check of the party members, you are good. They will stay with the items, GG. And the last bug which I want to bring to you all in this video is the screen freeze bug. Your game may randomly stop working and freeze. You cannot see anymore what's going on screen, but you can still move around and do what you want. The only way to solve this is a reset. And with that, it's the end of our little discussions about the bugs. There are a couple more, which I deliberately chose to not include, because it's not clear to me if they are kinda discarded leftovers from development or no. For example, it seems that the Greater Mumbler may be able to melt your equipment, but I'm not completely sure, honestly. Then it seems from the code that all the weapons should be able to apply something like bleeding, but the developer stated that's not correct and that's just a leftover. Then there is stuff like infinite stones, but you get the idea. Now, do you remember what I asked you at the start? If you think the bugs are important to the enjoyment of Fear and Hunger? I don't agree. Let me explain. I love stumbling upon a bug. It makes the run itself feel different, feel special, almost unique, we may say. We created an original run where the bugs influenced, positively or negatively, our experience. And it's very special to remember those moments because they're gonna be stored in our memory of our runs forever. But what I mean is that the game is not represented by the bugs. There is so much more stuff to play this game for. The continued discovery of a puzzle between the battles, the navigation of the dungeon, the lore which connects almost every single dialogue option of the game. What I mean is, just because I love duping the souls in Dark Souls, that does not mean that the reason I play Dark Souls is because of the souls duped. And now it's your time. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you like this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe because that's gonna help me a lot. But for now, I was Frapollo94, I wish you all a good Christmas in case you're watching this video before that, and I will see you next time.